I've been long-haul trucking for almost 20 years, and I've seen my fair share of weird shit on the road. Feral dogs darting across highways, twisted wrecks of cars that looked like they shouldn't be real, even a guy dressed as a clown standing on an overpass at 3 in the morning. But nothing has ever gotten to me like what I saw out on Highway 93 in Arizona. It was late, real late. That weird hour when even the night creatures seem to go quiet. The kind of lonely blackness that swallows your headlights whole and spits them back at you weaker. I was hauling northbound, headed toward Kingman. Empty trailer. Just me, the drone of the engine, and the static hiss of the CB. Desert stretched on both sides, low scrub and jagged silhouettes of distant rocks. The stars above were sharp enough to cut yourself on. I hadn't seen another car in maybe 30 minutes. That's when I saw him, a figure, dead center in the lane, not walking, standing, still as a post, both arms raised, waving, like he was trying to flag me down. I swear to God, it was like he'd been waiting for me. I hit the brakes, hard, tires squealing, trailer fishtailing a little. My heart was beating so loud I could barely hear myself curse. I came to a stop just about 20 feet from where he'd been, except he wasn't there anymore. Gone, like smoke on the wind. I sat there, breathing heavy, hands locked on the wheel. I even leaned forward, squinting, scanning the road in front of me, the ditches, everything. The only sound was my cooling engine ticking quietly under the hood. I thought maybe he'd dived off the road, or maybe I'd imagined it. Too many hours awake, too much caffeine and highway hypnosis. But then I saw something, not out front, next to me. My mirrors caught it first. The faintest shape in the reflection on the passenger side, like someone was standing just outside the window, pressed close to the door. I whipped my head to the right. Nothing there. I grabbed my flashlight from the dash, opened the door, and stepped down. Boots crunching on gravel. The desert was silent, the kind of silence that almost seems wrong, like something was missing. I swung the flashlight beam across the passenger side. That's when I saw them, handprints on the inside of the glass, both mirrors, left and right, not smudges, not dirt. Full-on, sweaty, fresh handprints, fingers splayed wide like whoever or whatever had been gripping the glass hard from inside the cab. I nearly dropped the flashlight. My sleeper cab's door was still locked from the inside. I double-checked it. Locked. No busted windows. Nothing looked tampered with. But those handprints, they were real. I should have left right then, slammed the door, thrown that beast into gear, and peeled off like hell was behind me. But curiosity and something deeper kept me frozen. I eased around to the driver's side again, climbing back up into the cab, locking the door tight. I sat there, cab idling, my breath fogging the window. That's when I heard it. Breathing, not mine. Behind me, a slow, shallow inhale, wet, ragged, coming from the sleeper compartment right behind my seat. I swear the air got colder. I didn't even look. I just hit the gas, tires spitting gravel as I gunned it back onto the highway. I drove like a bat out of hell until I hit Kingman at dawn, white-knuckling the whole way, heart pounding so hard it felt like it was going to tear out of my chest. Later that day, at a truck stop, I tried telling another driver about it, an old guy who'd been running that desert route for decades. When I mentioned Highway 93, his face went pale, and he just shook his head. "You don't stop for anyone out there, son," he told me quietly. "Not at night. not for anything. That's how they get in. I asked him what he meant by they, but he wouldn't say, just turned and walked away. I don't know who or what that man in the road was, but I'll never run that route after dark again. And I sure as hell don't stop for waving hands anymore.
They say if you drive long enough alone at night, the highway starts whispering to you. Lisa never believed that nonsense, not until the desert whispered back. The highway out of Ely, Nevada, was a straight dark scar through an empty world. Lisa's rig cut through it like a battleship in the middle of a dead ocean. Her trailer was loaded with insulation, light, easy cargo. But the loneliness weighed heavier than steel. June in Nevada meant heat even after dark. But now, past midnight, the desert cooled enough to feel like a breath against her windows. The CB radio on her dash buzzed with low static, the occasional murmur of other truckers chatting on Channel 19. It was company, in a way. The low drone of voices, laughter, weather reports. Until it wasn't. Until the static changed. First came a warble, almost mechanical, like a distant train whistle being dragged backward. Then, from the crackle, "Can you see me?" The voice was faint, garbled, male, like someone whispering underwater. Lisa's hand froze on the wheel. Probably a prank. Desert nights made people weird. She reached for the mic, thumbed the button, and said, "Breaker 19, say again? You lost or what?" Only static answered. The empty land around her felt too empty now. Sagebrush flickered by in her headlights. Nothing else. No other rigs, no glow of distant towns. Just darkness folding over itself in layers. She turned up the volume. "Can you see me? Can you see me?" The second time, it was clearer. A little closer, like the voice had stepped forward. "Real funny," Lisa muttered. "Try it on someone who scares easy." Her headlights flickered just once. Not enough to be alarming, but enough to make her stomach tense. A dry whisper slithered through the CB. "I can see you." The voice was in the cab. That's what it felt like, not from the speaker, but right behind her ear. Lisa's breath hitched. Her fingers hovered over the CB mic, but didn't press. Fear, real and cold now, settled into her arms and chest. Up ahead, a green highway sign appeared, washed pale in her headlights. Route 50 East. 60 miles to next services. No turnouts, no towns, no lights but her own. And then, the CB hissed, and something laughed. Not fully human, not quite machine. A choking, broken gut laugh, like a cassette tape played back. That's when she remembered the story. It was trucker legend passed around at truck stops late at night, half joke, half warning. A rollover accident out here in the early 90s. A lone trucker hauling scrap flipped his rig off an embankment. It burned for hours before anyone found it. When they did, the CB radio was still broadcasting. They said it was stuck transmitting the last thing he'd said, "Can you see me?" Over and over, his last words, a desperate plea in the dark. And sometimes they said he still keyed up the mic on lonely nights looking for someone to answer. Lisa hit the throttle, The big diesel engine growled like a sleeping animal woken too soon. "Get out of here! Get out!" You drive long enough, you hear the stories. Phantom hitchhikers, weird lights in the sky, ghost trucks that ride your ass on deserted roads only to vanish when you pull over. I always figured it was boredom, mixed with too much caffeine and maybe a little too much whiskey at the truck stops. But that was before Route 2, before her. It was just past 2 in the morning, somewhere in the nothingness between Grand Island and Alliance, Nebraska. The road was a ribbon of black stretched tight across endless fields of corn and scrub, nothing but my headlights carving tunnels through the dark. Then I saw her, standing on the shoulder, barefoot, wearing what looked like a white sundress, the kind you'd see on a girl at a summer picnic, except it was filthy, torn at the hem, hanging loose on her thin frame like she'd been out there for days. Her hair was long, tangled. Bare arms hugged her own shoulders against the cold. No cars anywhere, no houses, just endless miles of empty highway stretching east and west. I don't know what came over me, but I slowed down. Something about the way she stood there, so still, like she knew I would stop, like she'd been waiting for me specifically. Door creaked as I opened it. "You all right?" I called out. She didn't answer, just looked at me for a long moment, then climbed up into the cab without a word. I'm not stupid. I locked the doors as soon as she was inside. Don't need some junky boyfriend hiding in the ditch waiting to jump me. But when I glanced at her again, bare feet curled up in the seat, hands folded neatly in her lap, I felt that worry melt into something else, something colder, something I didn't have a name for yet. We drove in silence. 5 miles, 10. The hum of the road beneath the tires was the only sound. Finally, I tried to break the ice. "What's your name? Where are you headed?" Nothing. She just stared forward, expression blank, hair hanging like a curtain around her pale face. Then, out of nowhere, she smiled. That's when I noticed her eyes. Not just dark, not just shadowed. Pitch black, no whites, no irises, just 2 perfect glassy pools of pure black, reflecting the glow of the dash lights like oil on water. The kind of eyes you don't ever forget, not because of how they looked, but because of how they felt, like staring down into something that didn't end. I don't scare easy, but I felt it then, a cold wash of dread rolling down my spine like someone pouring ice water down my back. "What the hell?" I whispered, instinctively checking the door locks again, even though I already knew they were sealed. I don't scare easy, but I felt it then. A cold wash of dread rolling down my spine like someone pouring ice water down my back. "What the hell?" I whispered, instinctively checking the door locks again, even though I already knew they were sealed. That's when she spoke, soft voice, sweet even. "You shouldn't have stopped." My throat went dry. I glanced at the road, then back at her, and she was closer, just slightly, leaning toward me, that smile stretching wider, lips thin and cracked, peeling at the edges. "You're not supposed to see us yet," she said almost playfully. Like a child caught sneaking a cookie before dinner, I gripped the wheel tighter, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear my own breathing. "What are you?" Her head tilted. "Hungry." Then, without a sound, the headlights flickered, just a blink, half a second, but when they came back, she was gone. Passenger seat empty. Door still locked. The faint smell of wet earth lingering in the cab. like something dug itself up and sat with me for a while before slipping back into the ground. I drove the rest of that route with the high beams on and didn't stop again until I hit Wyoming. A week later, at a truck stop near Cheyenne, I was sitting at the counter nursing black coffee when an older driver sat down next to me. Guy looked like he'd been on the road since the Nixon administration. Leather skin, missing teeth. "You ever drive Route 2?" he asked unprompted, as if he already knew the answer. I nodded slowly. He didn't smile. "Don't pick up the ones in white," he said softly. "They ain't hitchhikers. They're watchers. And if they're out walking, it means something's coming." I haven't driven Route 2 since, and sometimes in the middle of the night, when the road hums just right beneath my tires, I swear I can still feel her sitting next to me, smiling with those black, endless eyes.
Fog makes everything feel wrong on the road, especially out west, especially late at night. You don't just drive through it, you sink into it, like cotton stuffed in your ears and wrapped around your brain. That's where I was that night, somewhere along I-5, headed north through California, thick fog rolling over the highway like waves. The yellow glow of my headlights didn't do much good, just smeared light across the windshield. And then, like a mirage, I saw it. A truck stop. Old neon buzzing faint through the fog, spelling out Fuller's Service and Cafe. Didn't show up on GPS, no billboards, no nothing. Just there, glowing faint yellow and pink like a photograph left out in the sun too long. I was bone tired. Coffee in my thermos was cold. Figured what the hell. Stretch the legs, get some hot food, splash cold water on my face. As I pulled in, something felt off right away, like I'd stepped onto the set of an old black and white movie. Old-style gas pumps out front. Chrome diner stools visible through the window. A couple of cars parked nearby, tail fins and rounded hoods like they belonged in the 1950s. The whole place looked too clean. No grime on the glass, no modern logos, not even credit card decals on the doors. But I didn't care. Inside, warm yellow light, smell of fried bacon, soft music playing from a jukebox in the corner. 4 or 5 folks sitting at the counter, all dressed like extras from Leave It to Beaver. Button-downs, pin curls, polka dot dresses. When I stepped through the door, every head in the place turned to look at me. Not in a mean way, just watching. A woman behind the counter smiled, bright red lipstick perfectly applied. "Coffee?" she offered, like she'd been expecting me. I sat at the counter. "Yeah, thanks." The coffee was hot, black, strong, actually tasted good, which was weird for a place like that in the middle of nowhere. "Where you headed?" she asked. "Up to Portland," I said, blowing on the cup. "Rough night on the road. Didn't even know this place was out here." That's when it happened. The cook behind the counter, a tall guy in a grease-spotted apron, froze. Spatula midair. The soft hum of conversation from the other patrons stopped cold. I felt it like a shift in air pressure, like the moment before a thunderclap. Nobody said a word. They just stared. It was wrong. All of it. The clothes, the cars. Even the music felt too clean, like it wasn't coming from the jukebox at all, but from some old radio signal trapped in the walls. I left that coffee half drunk, dropped a 5 on the counter, and walked out. As soon as I hit the cold fog outside, the silence broke, the hum of my truck waiting, my boots crunching on old gravel. A faint hiss, like radio static, trailing behind me from the diner. I got the hell out of there, fast.
didn't even look in my mirrors until I was 5 miles up the road. Later that morning, at a real truck stop near Reading, I struck up a conversation with an old-timer fueling next to me. Told him about the weird stop, how it felt like I had driven into a time capsule. As soon as I mentioned Fuller's Service, he went pale. "That place burned down," he said softly, shaking his head. "Electrical fire. Whole diner went up. Everyone inside. Gone. That was 30 years ago." "Then what the hell did I stop at?" I asked, my mouth suddenly dry. He didn't answer. He just looked out toward the fog creeping in across the highway and muttered, "Sometimes the road don't forget." And sometimes I swear I can still smell that hot coffee on cold nights. Out on the road, you learn quick. If you want sleep, you gotta ignore the usual noises. Trucks idling nearby, distant coyotes, the hum of semis rolling by, hell, even tapping tree branches on the cab roof if you park near the woods. But what I heard that night wasn't a branch. It wasn't the creak of suspension or the wind curling around the sleeper either. It was scratching. Slow, deliberate, scratching across the roof of my rig, like fingernails on sheet metal. This was up in the Smoky Mountains, middle of October, leaves falling in rust-colored drifts, fog thick enough to smother headlights. I'd been hauling a refrigerated load out of Asheville, pulled off at a little rest area tucked against the trees, barely a parking lot, really, with a single busted vending machine and one flickering light. No other trucks, just me. I'd been asleep maybe 20 minutes when it started. Scratch, scratch, scrape. At first, I tried to write it off, maybe a raccoon, maybe a stray cat. But then, thump. Something heavy shifted above me, causing the cab to rock ever so slightly, followed by a dragging sound, like wet burlap being pulled over metal. Wide awake now, I sat up, heart pounding, listened hard. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I didn't want to turn the cabin lights on. Something about that darkness felt important, like I shouldn't break it. Like light might invite whatever was out there. Instead, I slowly reached over to the glove box and pulled out the old mag light I kept tucked inside. Heavy, solid, comforting. Then, silence. Nothing but my breathing, sharp and shallow in the tight dark of the sleeper. For a few blessed seconds, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. But then came the sound I'll never forget. Footsteps. Not animal, not paws. Bare human feet, padding gently, one after the other, across the length of the cab roof above me. And they were too slow, measured, careful, like someone tiptoeing not to wake the house, but making sure I could hear every step. I gripped that flashlight so tight my knuckles went numb. Then a voice, faint, right above me, whispered through the steel like someone pressed lips directly to the metal. "Are you alone in there?" I swear to God, I stopped breathing, just froze solid, hand gripping the flashlight like it was the only thing tethering me to reality. Next morning, after I'd calmed down, I climbed up the side of the rig to check. The scratches were there, deep, long, curved at the ends like hooked fingernails dragging through soft metal. But worse were the footprints. Bare, human, but wrong. Each foot had 6 toes, and pressed into the dusty roof panels were faint claw marks curling out from the ends of each one. I never park near the woods anymore, and I don't ever sleep with the cab light off.